Democrats have built a considerable amount of momentum when it comes to certain congressional races and state races. And the more recent example has to do with a part of the country that Trump actually won in by a huge margin, and how it has now flipped over to supporting Democratic candidates, specifically Democratic candidate Mike Revis. So to give you some details on Mike Revis, he was running against a GOP nominee, and he actually won against that GOP nominee, even considering the fact that most of the voters in that area had voted for Trump. Mike Revis defeated GOP nominee David Linton by a 4-point margin in a seat Trump carried with 61% of the vote just over a year ago. President Barack Obama lost by 12 points in that very area back in 2012. So let's take a nice look at Mike Revis. There he is. He's very happy about this win. And
this is taking just seconds after his win.
I don't know when that picture is taken, obviously.
But look at Mike Revis. He's so happy after that win.
But this is all good news. He's incredibly young, by the way. I didn't know much about him until this story broke, but he comes from a long line of union supporting family members, union family members, and his win also comes amid an investigation into Missouri's Republican governor for alleged blackmail against a woman with whom he had an affair. So Republicans are facing some drama in Missouri right now, and Revis swoops right in and he dominates, which is good news.
The reasons to be excited are that these were very Republican districts. There was not a chance they were going to win any of this. To have a 31-point flip in a state legislature is unbelievable for Democrats, and it's happening in other states. A couple of things at play here. The Eric Greitens thing. I mean, he's the governor of Missouri. It does make this a little different because he's in such disfavor now for having had the affair, A, but B, for having allegedly blackmailed this woman.
Can we stop for a second?
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised that it worked against him. I mean, I feel like at this day and age, Republicans are like, oh, you had an affair? Awesome.
Right. Well, I mean, I
living the dream.
That's true. But what you're also seeing is a lot of the first-time voters who voted for Donald Trump in a presidential election, who were seduced by the guy and not the party, are coming out and are not coming out for these races, as they typically don't. New voters don't come out at this time. So that works to the Democrats' favor going into these legislative races and going into the midterms, because the midterms provide real voters who really care, who really don't like what's going on in this case right now with Democrats. It gives them a leg up, and it helps Claire McCaskill certainly, because the chances that she is she's one of those races that are really, really tight right now that the Democrats really need to hang on to if they have any hope of winning the Senate. So it's a very cool case study of what's going on both with the Trump voters, with Missouri, and with the fact that Democrats kind of see it gives them a really cool game plan. I mean, if you like this stuff, you're into this, of how to attack these races. And I think I think that's really great. Of course, they didn't win all the races last night, but they weren't expected to win any of them. So yeah, every little bit helps, and it sends a message in Missouri.
So let's take a quick broader look at what's happening with some of these races, because we're seeing a trend, and politics tends to be a little cyclical, where you have the party that's in charge, things aren't going perfectly, and then voters decide to punish the party in charge by voting against them. So that's definitely at play. But you're right, Michael. I think there were also individuals who didn't identify with one party or the other and didn't like the way things were going, and they saw Trump as someone who was different, maybe voted for him and then didn't like the results. I think that could be at play as well.
Yeah, there's some of that at play.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure there's some of that. But I think that there is just this idea that they came out for something that was a spectacle, and when it's not a spectacle, a good portion historically of voters don't come out. You saw it with Jesse Ventura. You saw it to a certain extent with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's the same kind of thing that's happening, and I think it has a bigger effect. The difference to a casual voter between president and state legislator that's a huge wide gap.
Well, Democrats have now picked up 35 state legislative seats across the country in special elections, while Republicans have picked up just 4 since Trump took office. So again, we're starting to see this play out in a broader sense, and things are looking good for the midterm elections later this year. But I also don't want those on the left to get comfortable and just assume, hey, we have a terrible president, people are unhappy with him, and so.
Yeah.
You know,
oh no, there's no reason to be comfortable. This is right.
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 Exactly.
In fact, the whole idea is that this would invigorate the electorate in some way, and many who might stay at home are now going to go to the polls. So very much to your point, they have to show up.
If you like this video, bless your heart. We got a lot more where that came from. We do a full show every day, Monday through Friday. Come enjoy it ad-free by becoming a member. tytnetwork.com/join.